It does feel rather ridiculous doing another Jhon Duran video so soon after doing the previous Jhon Duran video. This has become the Jhon Duran chat channel rather than anything about West Ham, it seems. But all I can say is when myself and Gio published a video earlier this morning, what we said at the time was the news at the time, that West Ham had bid £40 million, pretty much, for the player, and I think everybody expected it to be accepted. That was what Aston Villa had asked for. It had taken a little while. I think we'd probably started off bidding 25. We tried to chuck players in there. We'd made 3 bids. This was the final one, or so we thought at the time. And that was it. And it was probably, 35 million plus £5 million in add-ons if we qualify for Europe and if he scores 20 goals, so on and so forth. But it would have got to 40 million. It was the magic £40 million mark as far as we were concerned. And I think we thought we'd given them a good deal, bearing in mind we are dealing with a player of promise rather than a finished article. Aston Villa rejected it, as you no doubt see for the video title. And that's where we find ourselves now, except that West Ham, and I mean, they've reiterated this within the last hour of me recording this video. They found it very, very tough to deal with Aston Villa. And they're actually actively exploring other options. And I don't know how much of this is true, but West Ham said they're going to walk away. That's it. That's it. No more. They're not going to make this final bid that's being demanded of them. And as we understand it, because Aston Villa are leaking, whilst West Ham are leaking news from this side, Aston Villa are leaking news from the other side as well, which is we want £40 million plus the add-ons. So you give us 40 million. Apparently what they want 40 million. They want more money if we qualify for Europe. They want more money if he scores a certain amount of goals, and they want a sell-on clause. Now, I don't know what that is. I'm going to pretend to know what that is. So not only do they want to charge a lot of money for this player, if we start to make any money on him in the future, they want some of that as well. That is not unusual to have a sell-on clause, but I think we've got one with Pierre-Emerick, which is we gave him to Sunderland for, well, we almost did give him to Sunderland, £350,000. So that's a case of, right, look, we'll give you him now. If he does make it, we want to make sure we're remunerated. I would argue Aston Villa are already getting loads of money for a player. So on this one, I can sort of understand it, actually. And I'm always mindful when we get into transfer windows, as the more and more a transfer negotiation gets drawn out, the more occasions that you're denied a player, it sort of makes you want them a little bit more. And I'm mindful about that. Because I've got to be honest with you, when we were bidding 25 million for him or whatever it might have been, I wouldn't necessarily have taken Jhon Duran over Jonathan David, over Ivan Toney or anyone else. Yes, money, if you took money out of it, would Jhon Duran have been my chosen striker? No, if you remember earlier on in the window, we were linked with on Meridian. I thought, oh, this guy probably looks to be the one, looks to be the guy that we're going to be chasing. The only one I really haven't ever totally fancied was Alexander Sorloth, but I think there's been merits to a lot of the strikers that we've been linked with. But the more bids get rejected, the more you think, oh, actually, I do want him. And I think part of that is you watch more footage of the player, and then you have a confirmation bias and you see more things that confirm why you might want him. And then you get a lot of people who obviously have wanted the transfer from day one, and they end up sort of convincing you and sort of helping you along the way by saying things like, well, look at his goals per minutes ratio and that sort of thing. So he looks to be a very, very good player, no doubt about that. So I think it becomes ever more disappointing when you miss out again. And you've got to take into account that last night, he went on his Instagram. He was doing that on his Instagram last night. And I think that the reason being, he thought the deal was done. I think everybody thought the deal was done. I thought West Ham, well, I think, well, not I think, I know they were confident that when they sent that bid off, it was going to get accepted. Certainly, Duran was confident. That's why he was doing all that last night on his Instagram. I think the medical had been arranged for this weekend. As I understand it, there have been tentative early preliminary talks with his advisors. They'd agreed somewhere along the region of £90,000 a week. Not many people expected Villa to turn this down. It's a lot of money for an unproven player. And particularly, as I mentioned a few days ago, when they're looking to bring someone in João Felix and get that deal over the line. So I think it's a bit of a knockout blow, really, for West Ham. And what turned out, yesterday was a weird old day. as it looked like first of all, it looked like we'd missed out on Duran. Then it looked like we'd missed out on Wan-Bissaka. Then it turned out that actually we'd missed out on, I've got to say his name again, Mazraoui. Looked like I've got it written down on the whiteboard over there. Then we had missed out on Mazraoui because we couldn't agree a fee with the agent. So it looked like it'd been a bad day. We'd messed up. Then we get towards the end of the evening, and then we're thinking, hold on a second. It looks like Man United were going to play some sort of subsidy to allow West Ham to get the Wan-Bissaka deal over the line. So we might get him. And then very, very late last night, it would seem like the Duran deal was almost done. So we were sort of down in the dumps. It's a roller coaster, it is. We were down in the dumps at the start of the day. Then towards the end of the day, think, oh, hold on a second. Right back in the striker coming in. This is great. And then we get to today, and it's just really all bad news. I'm a little bit. Look, I'm happy to criticise the club where they need criticising on stuff, be it concession prices on tickets, be it the way we seem incapable sometimes of promoting our academy players and giving them that jump from the scholarship contract up to the professional contract, and then the next one after that. We're very, very bad at that. There's no doubt about it. I think we've probably got a bit of a problem with agents and dealing with agents and paying agents' fees and stuff like that. West Ham do a lot wrong. So I don't want to. I will criticise them when I think it's warranted, is my point, and I do so regularly on this channel. But I'm not sure this is it. I think it's a reasonable amount of money. I mean, to be fair, I said it before that offer that's just been rejected. I said it 2 or 3 days ago. Did a video on it, didn't I, saying basically walk away from it. It's all got too rich. And we bid again since then, and they've still said no. And it was interesting. Now, I don't know whether the club are leaking this news that they're going to walk away because they are actually going to walk away, or that they want Villa to think that they're going to walk away. So Villa turn around and say, oh, actually, do you know what? We'll take your whatever it is, your 36 million and then your 4 million in add-ons. Or whatever. It was structured like that. The deal was structured. You never know the fine details, but it was something like that. And I think it's going to be very, very difficult for them to reintegrate this guy back into their team. And I completely understand why the Villa fans are upset with Duran. He's been agitating for a move the whole time, and he clearly wants to move to West Ham. I think some of that is going to be wages, no doubt about it. Look, the 90 grand a week at West Ham is going to be, very, very enticing for him, particularly if Aston Villa are not going to match that wage. But also, I think, Ollie Watkins, great striker, right? It's highly unlikely he's going to force his way past Ollie Watkins. He probably knows at Aston Villa he's going to be a substitute, even though they're in Champions League, in Europe and whatnot, and they're going to be. They're going to be fighting it out for some in European places this season, which is, great, good for them. He's going to get more game time, but I think he knows at West Ham, no European football, of course, but be the number one guy, won't he? You have to be 90 grand a week, 40 million pounds. You're not training with the under 21s, are you? Let's be fair. So I totally understand why he wants to leave, and also understand why Villa fans would be upset about the way he's gone about it. He's not been very subtle. But I do think Aston Villa are going to have a little bit of a problem on their hands in terms of trying to reintegrate him with the squad. I don't think the players will care, by the way. I just don't think professional footballers do. I think professional footballers understand that players move. I think the fans will care, and that's going to be a little bit tricky for him, really. But ultimately disappointing, not because, as I say, he was my first choice striker at the start, but I'd grown accustomed to thinking, okay, well, this is fine. We can, this will be good. We can get this guy, and I think he'll do well for us. I have a little hunch this is going to happen still, truth be known. So I'm not too disappointed, but at the moment, you've got Aston Villa saying, we might stop negotiating with West Ham. Now you've got West Ham turning around and saying, we're not going to negotiate with these people. They're too tough. They're too hard to negotiate with. And it's not been like this stuff gets leaked and you get told not to say it or publish it or anything like that. West Ham quite happy for this stuff to be out there. So I think as a club, I think on this particular deal, just this deal maybe, West Ham feel they've done as well as they can. They've negotiated as hard as they can, and I think West Ham feel they've offered what is a fair price. They're now just dealing with a very, very stubborn Aston Villa team. Look, there you go. That's the latest news. Sorry to bring you more bad news. We prefer actually to give you the news like the good stuff, like he was about to sign. So yeah, apologies. Well, it wasn't misinformation yesterday. It was just that was the information that's out there. It's been rejected since myself and Gio recorded that video. There you go. So maybe we'll be doing another one saying West Ham have had a £43 million deal accepted, but there's no doubt about it. If West Ham are going to buy Jhon Duran, we're going to have to pay more than the £42 million that we paid to get Sebastian Haller from Frankfurt.